Good afternoon, everyone. Afternoon to everyone. I'm Vinolia.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'm Vinolia. I'm the Marketing and Event Coordinator for ISCA. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone who is here today. Before we start with the session, I can see that people are joining in just now. So I would like to please allow them 2 more minutes before we start with the session. Thank you so much. Greetings once more. I think that time has exhausted. We're going to start with our session. My name is Vinolia. I'm the Marketing and Event Coordinator for ISCA. Before we start with the session, I'd like to welcome you all for availing yourself today for this session. As you all know that we all have housekeeping rules to keep our house in order. I'm going to take you through some housekeeping rules and then we can continue with the session. Before everything, I would like for everyone to please mute themselves before we start. Kindly mute yourself and let us make it a norm that whenever we log in, we mute ourselves. On that note, I would like to thank everyone for that. Okay, another thing is, if you have a question during the session, you can write your question in the chat box before you forget. Or if you like to present your own question, you will be given the opportunity to do so only after the presentation. That's where you will be given the opportunity to continue with the question. Today amongst us, we have our guest speaker who is Professor Oni Olabanji. Professor Oni is an expert in the field of business management. He has supervised master's and PhD students and published widely in the field of business management. His research areas are in finance, entrepreneurship, small business, leadership, and strategy. He is a co-convener for the International Conference on Business and Management Dynamics, as well as a reviewer and guest editor for various business management journals. He is a member of various committees in the university and has served in various leadership positions. I would like to take this opportunity to officially welcome Professor Olabanji Oni amongst us to come and take the platform. Thank you, Professor. You can continue.
All right, and thank you for your introduction. I'm looking forward to engaging your master's and doctoral students in a practical way, which I've tried to come up with, is formulating and clarifying the research topic. The slide is just to talk to the students directly. And before I start, I will start with with a question which you can just answer for yourself. Do you have a research topic? You can just answer it for yourself. When I finish, then you will just evaluate yourself. How did you get your research topic? How did you get your research topic? Okay. Just those two questions, which I have for you, which you can write down. In terms of an overview of what I'm going to present, I've tried to make it brief, straight to the point, and also try to make it practical, like talking to you directly in a direct language. First is to look at introduction, and then we move on to major attributes of a good research topic. Then we will, venture into how to generate good ideas. And once we've done that, we will also look at how to refine those research ideas. Once we've done that, we will move our agenda by looking at writing research questions, and then also turning ideas into research questions and research objectives. And to sum it up, what I've done is to integrate this entire presentation in a slide which shows integrating this whole clarifying and refining research ideas. So let us move now to our first slide, which is the introduction. Like I said, I've tried to put in a simple, straightforward language. So formulating and clarifying research topic, it's very vital and important for all masters and doctoral students. When you registered as a student for masters or PhD students, you have to tell yourself you need to do research. And normally we have that process of a research. We have the research process. Now, from the research process, we have one step in that research process, which is this aspect of coming up with, ideas and trying to come up with a topic, which is what we are venturing into. It is important for you as masters and doctoral students, for you to graduate, you need to write a dissertation. If you're doing masters, normally we will say dissertation, okay? And then if you're doing a doctoral studies, we will normally say you're writing a thesis. So you need a topic be it for a dissertation or be it for thesis if you're doing a doctoral study. Now, to get grounded, you need to formulate a problem. This is very, very important because without defining a problem, you cannot get to your destination, which is to be able to have a knowledge gap and make a contribution to the body of knowledge. For example, if you are a PhD student, we need novelty. What is new in terms of your contribution? Which is what all examiners will look at. Novelty, what is new in terms of your contribution? So those contributions, could be theoretical contribution, it could be empirical contribution, it could be policy contribution, and so on. But you need to show us at the PhD level to say what is novel or what is new in terms of your contribution. At master's level, yes, you can modify, refine existing contribution, but your knowledge gap needs to be clear. So this comes from the problem. And from there, you identify a clear problem and you define it. So it is from this problem where your research topic should be, crafted out. All right, which is one aspect which I wanted to mention fully in this introductory part. Now, how do you identify your area of research? Normally, I will say you select your area of research based on what you are good at, your strength. You cannot go and select an area of research where you are not good at. So you need to check the different fields. If you are good in finance, then select an area of research in finance. If you're good in marketing, select your area of research in marketing. If you are good in operations and supply chain, then select your area of research in operations, or you can select in supply chain management. So it's important that when you come up with your area of research, it has to be linked with your strength. And normally when you check with students, with my experience when I was a student, I used to do well with finance. So I love calculations. So I would say finance, entrepreneurship, all those areas are areas of my strength. So if I need to come up with my area of research, then I will, channel it towards those areas where I know I'm good at. So, for example, you can check the assignments. For example, you can go check assignments where you've got good grades. It's just a suggestion. It doesn't mean it has to be always like this. Then this will allow you to know your strength. Okay, and now for the purpose of this webinar, our area of research, which I'm going to use, is in financial planning. The next important part, which we also need to look at, is to acknowledge and ask ourselves a question. What is a topic? In simple terms, a topic is a specific subject of your thesis or dissertation. Now, it means if we move from our area of research, which is the area of interest in the previous slide, I did mention to say it is financial planning. So what we need to do now to come up with a topic is to now link financial planning with another variable. In this case, it means my topic is financial planning and financial performance. So this financial planning and financial performance, it's going to be my topic. From here, I can, come up with like a title for my dissertation. I can add a lot to it if I'm moving away from the topic. I can say in South Africa, and I can, add to it. But when we emotional decisions. Sometimes, we become too emotional and we go and select a topic based on our emotions, which is not right. We need to select topics based on rational decisions. What is a rational decision? I've given an example to say you need to select topics which are focused and where you have necessary skills for you to be able to complete your dissertation or your thesis. Then in that situation, we are saying you've taken a rational decision in coming up with your topic. Now, this webinar, we've got 3 main questions we want to answer when we finish. First one, what are the major attributes of a good research topic? Second one, how can we get good ideas and use the ideas to formulate a very good research topic? And last one, how can we convert these ideas into good research questions and objectives? Moving on is to look at major attributes of a good research topic. And here I've highlighted 3 major attributes. Some may tell you 2 major attributes. Some may tell you 4 major attributes. But based on this webinar, I've highlighted 3 major ones. The first one is capabilities. So what you need to ask yourself, I told you to write down 2 questions at the beginning. Do you have a topic? So look at your topic and ask yourself these questions as we move on. If you tick most of these questions, you are in the right direction. If you do not tick most of those questions and you have a topic, then I would advise that you revisit your topic and discuss with your supervisor. Okay, let's move on. Capabilities. These are just some questions which are important, not all the questions for capabilities. Okay. First, will you complete this research based on the amount of time given? You need to have a notebook where you are ticking, you tick or you mark X. Are you capable to take on this topic? Do you have research skills? Do you have enough resources? Do you have, for example, enough data analysis techniques? Will your findings be current when you finish your dissertation or your thesis? Okay. You can just make a tick or mark X based on your topic. If you've managed to tick most of this question, then it means your topic is feasible. But in your notebook, if most of these questions you are putting X, my suggestion would be that you need to revisit your topic. The second component is appropriateness. So what is this appropriateness? What do we want to really look at? Is it worthwhile to do this topic? It means here is where we start looking at knowledge generation. Is this topic going to create a new knowledge, or is it going to add to existing knowledge? You need to tick. Do you have enough public literature on this topic? Okay, check yourself and tick. Is this topic acceptable for the standard of your university, especially the examining university? Okay, you need to tick as well. What contribution of knowledge is the topic going to make? If you don't know, it means you have to put X. If you know and you have it, then you tick. Will you be able to link your research topic to a particular theory? Mainly at the PhD level. Maybe for masters, we could overlook it in some cases. Will you be able to state your research questions and objectives clearly? All right, so you need to tick. If you've ticked most of this, then we are saying your second component in terms of your topic is appropriate. Okay, and the last component which we are going on to is relevant. So the third one, we're looking at relevance. So you can also check with your topic. Is this topic relevant to your area of interest? Okay, we've talked about area of interest at the beginning in the introduction. Is it relevant to your objectives of your degree? Okay, is it relevant to the objectives of your degree? You need to know. It means your topic must be connected to your degree. That's basically what we are looking at. If you are doing supply chain management as a degree, then your topic must come from supply chain management. If you are doing marketing as a degree, your topic must come from marketing. If you are doing finance, then your topic must come from finance. If you're doing entrepreneurship, your topic must come from entrepreneurship. Okay. Is it relevant to providing a solution to a problem in an organization? Okay, this is where issues also of policy will come in later. So you may need to also check. Is it relevant to the latest areas of research? Latest areas of research are also very important. Okay, so you also need to think. So in sum, those three components are very important for you when you evaluate your topic. To say your topic can be researchable. We're moving on. Generating good ideas. Generating good ideas. We've got the rational, thinking, and creative. With rational, what are we looking at? First, we can say it's a scientific way of finding out in terms of you getting your research topic, all right? But what do? You have to explore yourself. You explore yourself, you explore your own interests, check your strength. Also, you can use your own personal data, and also trying to find out which field you are interested in, and then using it to start finding out about your research topic. Okay, these are, some of the ways which you may need to look at when you're talking about generating an idea from a rational point of view. But what is also important is for you to use past data, okay? Or some could be extant studies, all right? Which are previously published articles in academic and professional journals. You can also use books, you can use the dissertations, which are the previous dissertations, which you have some electronically these days, some you have in the library as well. You can go in there, take those previous dissertations, you can look, and also with the thesis, and also reports, and so on. You can take all this to refine your idea. You can take all this to refine your idea. I've also provided an example here to say you can read project titles of these dissertations and theses, and search literature, for example, using keywords. And then you can use different search engines, Science Direct, and then you can also get some information from the media by scanning the media, newspaper, articles, and so on. All right, which is the first part we look at. The second way which you can generate good ideas is your creative reasoning, your creative thinking, which you have to do using your own mind, using your own creativity. Yes, I know now we do have the technology, but we still need notebooks. We still need notebooks. We still need to write. We still need to write down. Okay, so you create a list of ideas or a notebook of ideas where it comes to your mind, because you can have a diary. When an idea comes to your mind, you go to that diary, which is more of like a notebook for you. You write it down, relating to your topic of interest. You even put in on the right date in the diary, you write it down, or you write the date, you write your idea down, which is very important. It's creative thinking, creative reasoning, coming up with the ideas which are related, for your topic. You can make use of personal preferences using previous or past dissertations or thesis, and then you can also create a relevant tree to see if these ideas are relevant to your area of interest and research objectives. What is this relevant tree? It's just a tree, it's a diagram. And for you to draw this diagram, you can use your keywords. For example, with what I've put for our webinar for today, I talked about financial planning and financial performance as the topic. It means if I take one of the variables, for example, I take, let's say, financial planning, and I need to do a relevant tree with financial planning. It means I will start from the broad, then I will move to the specific. And what will help me to be able to do it is to use keywords. The keywords, okay, financial planning will be my first word which I write, then I can put it inside the box, make an arrow to come down. This financial planning, then I have sub keywords which are related to financial planning. Sales budget, cash budget, just an example. Then even from the sales budget and cash budget, I can deconstruct and still go further and know that for my sales budget, what do I need? Unit price, sales volume, just an example. So you are able to have those keywords. Now, what will happen is that these keywords which you are able to identify from your creative thinking actually goes into when you now need to come up with your research questions and research objectives. You will see as we move on how those keywords will come into play. So what are you doing here? Simply, you are doing brainstorming. Refining research ideas. You've got the Delta technique. Here, I've simply said, for example, you can have discussions with the experts in the field. Okay, my topic is in financial planning and financial performance. It means I will need to get experts in finance to assist me and check if my topic is researchable or not. Then whatever I need to do, it can be refined by experts in finance. Professors in finance can assist me as a student. Then, you know, I make some of those changes and I revise it, and then it becomes good and researchable. You can, you know, first of all, use extant studies from literature. Normally, I recommend master's students, you need to research at least 100 articles. PhD students, you need to research at least 200 articles, okay? For you to really see in terms of where your knowledge gap will come from. And the more you read and research about your topic, the more you are grounded in your topic, and the more you know in terms of issues which are current also in terms of your topic. Integrating ideas from all these techniques. So we could integrate ideas from the preliminary study, the Delphi technique, and we collect it, and then now we can now link it to the research questions, objectives, and findings. Is it wrong for a supervisor to give a student a topic, or is it right? Okay, this is debatable. Some scholars will tell you it is not right. Some scholars will tell you it is right. I'm sure I've got also my colleagues here, scholars and academics. From my own point of view, you can give your students topics, and those topics, now your students will need to now go and, you know, test the ideas, and then run it with you as a supervisor. Then you can revise where necessary. All right. The next one is also if you are an employee in an organization. Most of us from, you know, masters, PhD level, you find we are more like part-time students, because we are working and then we are also studying. So we have an employer. So maybe even an employee in the organization could even give you a topic. You can get it from your employer, and then you can test this idea in your organization. Most of this will normally help also in terms of policy contribution. Writing research questions. I'm not sure how I'm doing with time. Let me see. Yeah, maybe I need to move a bit faster. Writing research questions. Research questions, like I did mention, defines the problem. You know, in the introduction, I mentioned the issue about the problem. So we need to have a clear definition of a problem. So normally you will have a section in your proposal which is a problem statement. Okay, and your problem statement needs to be clear, because there is a strong connection between your your problem statement and your research questions, because the research questions defines the problem. And like I said previously, a problem may not really mean a problem per se, but a problem may be an issue where you have a knowledge gap, okay? From the actual, what is the actual state of the situation in an organization, what is the desired state or which is expected, you are able to see a gap which you could actually talk about in terms of a problem and make it a problem statement. Now, when you come up with your research question, you need to have what we call like your main research questions, your main research question rather, which is your overarching research question. And then from your main research question, or which is also called your general research question, your sub-research questions should flow from it. So we need to take note of this as well. Then a well-formulated and clear research questions allows the researcher to draw conclusions from the findings. So if your research questions are well formulated, your conclusions from the findings can be drawn nicely. Also, what is important when you write your research question, it must not be too difficult. Also, it should not be too simple, but it should be set at the right level. And we also know research questions can be descriptive, explanatory, or exploratory. It means, for example, if it's descriptive, I can say what questions. You can use what questions. Then in that way, you know it's descriptive. Then if you use what questions, for example, if I say, what is the relationship between financial planning and financial performance? Okay, that's simply descriptive, and it is a what question. And it means it is more for a quantitative study, all right? But if you want to go deeper, you can start looking at how questions, why questions, where you can now look at explanatory or exploratory questions. Okay, so if it's exploratory, then it means you will be looking at a qualitative study. And we all know, for example, for a qualitative study, maybe when you do your method of data collection, you're looking at the interview, focus group. Those are qualitative, but for quantitative, which is the one I've talked about, which you have a descriptive questions like what questions, we are looking at using a questionnaire, which is a survey, making use of secondary data, which is available, and so on. Okay, so we now moving closer to concluding, turning ideas into research questions and objectives. What do you need to look out for? So what I've done here is just to identify what are the key aspects you may need to consider when you are doing your proposal. So you need to link your main research question, which is your overarching research question, with the aim of the study. Your aim of the study is the purpose of the study. Your aim of the study is like your primary objective of the study. Aim can only be one. You can only have one aim. You cannot have aims. You can only have one aim. Okay, then you can have objectives. Okay, the next one we're looking at is the linking of sub-research questions with the secondary objectives of the study. So you can have your sub-research questions, you link the secondary objectives of the study. So there needs to be a connection between sub-research questions and secondary objectives of the study. Now, your linking will allow research objectives to operationalize the research question and aim of the study. Your objectives needs to be SMART. This we know, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. This we know based to be because we are grounded in management. Integrating all in one slide. What I have done here is to put all and come up with something which is practical, which you can see based on all the stories I've been talking about when I started. This is the most important, and this is the last slide. Research idea, okay? My research idea, like I said, is financial planning. So it means I start with the idea, then my research topic is financial planning and financial performance, okay? And then my overarching research question, which is my main research question. What is the relationship between financial planning and financial performance? Now, if you recall, I talked about keywords and sub-keywords. Now, if I move on, my sub-research question 1, what is the relationship between sales budget and financial performance? Okay, you can see inside the slide where I did the financial planning, I identified 2 keywords. So you see here, I'm connecting those keywords, I'm putting it in my 2 sub-research questions, because I said when I did my relevance tree, I have financial planning first, then I break down, I have sales budget, I have cash budget. So now I'm putting it in here in my sub-research question to show you those keywords still has to connect to your research questions as well as your research objectives. So the next sub-research question, what is the relationship between cash budget and financial performance? Then from my research question, I can now set my aim, which is my primary objective, which is the purpose of this study, to investigate relationship between financial planning and financial performance. But what can we see in here? Your aim or primary objective, you can see, is linked with your main research question. So it's linked with your main research question. And then my secondary objective 1 is linked with my sub-research question 1, all right? So it should be logical. So secondary objective 1, to investigate relationship between sales budget performance. And then secondary objective 2 is linked with sub-research question 2, which is to investigate relationship between cash budget and financial performance. All right. So this brings us to the end of our presentation, and we now wait for you to ask me questions, and then I will be able to assist. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Prof Oni, for a very informative session. It was very instructive and also enlightening. And I like the fact that you were slow in a way that you were not leaving anyone behind. So I believe that it was very constructive of you. So thank you so much for that. I'm now going to give people with questions a platform to ask any questions. I've been through our chat box, it's empty. So I believe that if there's anyone amongst us who has a question, you can raise your hand and then you'll be given the opportunity. Or you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I don't know what time is there. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, that was very nice. That is according to the way she has said, it's very true, very slow. Actually, I'm on the platform because I'm doing this for some people, for trying to take people through. Then one idea which came out very clearly is the way we rush the students and that they understand and yet they don't. Now, having to go to your which I'm going to adopt some of the things which you have said. One is, how does the problem, how do you conceptualize the idea of conceptualization using the problem, how the problem can be conceptualized so that you can draw the searchable, those subtopics which are called might be variables. I don't know, you understand what I'm saying about the conceptualization of the ideas up to the level they reach the problem statement and all that.
Yeah.
If you have time, you can just do a quick one.
Okay. A good way which I normally use is once you know your topic, that your areas of interest. So what you need to do is to now go and do a preliminary literature review. So, okay. Now, when you do your preliminary literature review, if, for example, like I said, if it's master's, let's say you can look at 100 articles, you create a table, all right, in sort of columns. You're going to have your first column, you can have your surname and years for the authors, okay? Then your next column, you have the research objectives or questions. It will depend on which one you find. In those some articles, you may only find maybe research objectives. Sometimes you can find with the questions. And then the next part, which is important, is very important, is for you to see the methodology. So you also need to mention it for the particular article you've looked at. And then you have a section, what were, for example, findings from this article you are looking at, which is related, for example, for mine now, it has to be related to financial planning and performance, okay? So what were the findings from those articles? Now, when you check with any article, some will have a section. This is where you need to go to. It's called avenue for future research. This is the most important part. Where you've got avenue for future research, this is simply where your knowledge gap will come out from. And that is also where your problem can be, conceptualized. So check, and what do you need to do when you look at articles? You cannot go and look at articles of 1980 or 1990 because it's already solved. So normally, when you look at articles, you look at current articles. So you look at if we're, for example, now in 2022, let's say you have a 5-year, timeline in terms of getting your articles which you use for your research. Only do you use old articles where you are in literature, where you are dealing with your theoretical review. Those ones in terms of, who was the founder of a particular theory and all those ones. Those are the parts where you can use old articles. Okay, so basically using literature review, preliminary literature review, you should be able to use that to conceptualize your problem.
Yeah, that is very, very, very good. I have already now noted them down, and then I'm satisfied that is we have added something which was missing for me. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much, Prof. I'm now going to hand over to Agnes Sansa to ask the question. Yes.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that presentation. It was very educative with very good insights. I kindly seek your clarification regarding that particular aspect where you talked about refining your research ideas. And one of the techniques or methods you pointed out, you talked about the Delphi technique or method, where you can get opinions or where you can consult subject experts as you're trying to redefine your research ideas and generally your research. Now, my point of question is, if you go as you're developing and refining your research ideas and trying to build a very good research proposal, and then you start seeking opinions from these subject experts, as a researcher, don't you think you could preempt your research findings? Doesn't it bias your research ideas as you develop them all through the proposal? I submit.
Okay. When you consult with the experts in the field, it's a way to shape. It would be like a discussion, all right? But when you go to the experts, you must not go empty-handed. You are going with something, all right? You're going with something which you have. And when you now sit down with an expert in that particular field, you are having a discussion. You are debating about it. You are engaging the expert, and the expert is also engaging you. So it is a sort of discussion. So after your discussion, when you go back, you will be able to see what is it which we add value to what you are doing from your discussion from the experts. So that's simply how it works, because you need to refine it. And you cannot really know your findings because you've not done this particular study. So for you to say, maybe are you going to prejudge? Remember, although we didn't look at, for example, hypothesis okay, which is a different aspect. For example, when you set your hypothesis, it is a scientific guess. So you have to state it. And it doesn't mean that your hypothesis is always going to be what you've put in there when you get your findings. You will find some of your hypothesis may be valid at the end of the day. It's not a problem. Even some may not be valid. Even if all your hypotheses are not valid, it doesn't mean your study is not a good study. All right. You also need to take note of that.
Thank you so much, Prof. I appreciate it.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much for that question and the answer as well, Prof Oni. Moving forward, I'm going to give Prof Simon Afenge an opportunity for his question. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Prof, for your presentation. Now, I just want to bring up this point, and I will also want you to throw more light on it concerning choosing a research topic. Now, I'm going to take an example, given the fact that I'm in Bangkok. I'm based in Bangkok, and I'm looking at the environment here. Now, one of the biggest problems that a lot of students that I've come across face is that they choose a topic, but before choosing that topic, they never took into consideration what will be the possible limitations for that research and what are the ethical considerations. Now, Thailand particularly, it's a country that has its own ways. And because of this, most of the students do not have access to information. Now, for example, there was a lady that was doing research about good governance in the Thai education system. And for close to 2 years, she could not lay her hands on documents that would be able to help her to do her research. So it made me to start thinking and talking to some of my own students as well, like, these are some of the things you need to look at before you even think about coming up with a research topic. So what advice are you giving, especially to young people out there, especially in Africa, concerning this particular section when it comes to choosing a research topic and the limitation and the ethical consideration as well? Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Prof, for your contribution. And it's a very important part. If we, I just want to just talk to this part. You see this part of, is this topic, is it feasible? Okay, is one aspect which you asked that question. Are you going to be able to collect data? If no, it means you shouldn't proceed. Are you going to be able to collect data? The issues in terms of, ethical considerations are very important in research because we have gatekeepers, which we need to acknowledge and note. And it is important for you to know you are going to get ethical clearance certificate before you can go and collect data. So if you ask that question, at the beginning, like I did mention, as masters and PhD students, will you be able to collect data? If the answer is yes, and you've ticked, then you move on to the next one. Will you be able to now analyze the data using the techniques which you have in terms of your research skills? Then you're looking at the capabilities. So this is it's a very, very important part which you've brought out. And it's a part which goes also with the feasibility of this research. Is this research feasible or not? So like you said, the environment differs. Some environments you may be able to, some environment you may not be able to. So, but you look at your environment, look at what is happening, ask yourself a question: will you be able to collect data? If no, then do not move on. Because I've seen masters and PhD students who have written up to research methodology. Now, by the time they got to let's just say, for example, chapter 1, let's say introduction, let's say chapter 2, literature review, let's say chapter 3, research methodology. Now, by the time it gets to chapter 4, where they need to collect data and then analyze, they were now stuck, because now they can no longer be able to collect data. So sometimes you have to move from that aspect of collecting data, becomes a very important part in terms of a question you need to ask yourself. So moving from there, moving backward to introduction could be also a very good technique you can use, because don't write up to there and then you get stuck because of just what you've mentioned. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you so much. There was another hand which I've seen earlier, but if there are no more hands, we can proceed with our chat box. I see we have questions in our chat box. And the first question is from Jama, which says, Prof, what could be the research questions? Okay, I thought I had somebody speaking. Okay, we can proceed. The question says, Prof, what could be the research questions for the objective to investigate barriers to e-learning adoption by students? Did you get the question?
Now you're to investigate what?
It says, what could be the research questions for the objective to investigate barriers to e-learning adoption by students?
Well,
Can you see it on?
depends.
Yes, it's there on our chat
If you
box.
want to make it, let's say, descriptive study, then you can just look at what are the barriers which will, impact on the e-learning adoption of students. That's one research question you can look at. And that becomes your main research question, because now the e-learning adoption becomes, your topic, sub-research questions. and also to get once you get your sub-research questions, then you can now link those sub-research questions to your sub-objective and link your main research question, which I just mentioned, with your primary objective or aim of the study. So you can use a word question there, then you do a descriptive study. It's fine. Then it means you can look at that. It depends on what you're looking at. But also when you see a type of topic, you are able to see if it's more into a descriptive or exploratory type of topic. Yes. Okay, I hope I've answered that because I'm also talking about some other things now.
Okay, no problem, Prof. I'm going to give Angeline the platform to state their question.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Prof, for that wonderful presentation. Now, my question is pegged on the major attribute of a good research topic, and that is the capabilities. There is that last bit of the question, will the findings be current when you finish? So can you clarify on what this one means?
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Now, this aspect, will the findings be current when you finish? Remember, I talked also about when you do your literature, you look at a timeline, maybe a 5-year, when you try to get your ideas here. If we are coming here, and then we are saying you need to get those ideas, collect it, and then you need to refine it. So when you are doing, for example, a preliminary literature search, I normally recommend or propose that, students, you look at 5 years, okay? Timeline. So it means you can start maybe looking at it from, if we're in 2022, it means you can start, for example, looking at it maybe from 2017, okay, upward. And then when you do your search, it will give you articles, let's say from 2017 to 2022. All right. Now, but this is when you've started. When you finish, it's going to take you maybe more years. So you need to still bring in current articles as you move on. You cannot just stop in there because you are going to have a gap. So your findings need to talk with, the latest issues in research, which are researchable. Areas and issues in research, which are researchable. You need to do a good and extensive literature review of current articles. So basically, that's simply what I'm referring to in that regard. If you're doing secondary data, for example, and let's say you have a timeline of 10 years, and then we're in 2022, then you've completed. Normally you can have, because of availability of data, you may not be able to get data for 2021 now, but maybe you can still be able to get data for 2020, Okay, let's say you're using World Bank data. Now, provided you finish in 2022, so up to 2020 is still fine. But let's say you're graduating in 2022, but we, as an external examiner, I look at your timeline and I see that you stopped in, let's say, 2017. Then I'm going to ask a question to say there is a gap here from 2018, 19, and 20. Why didn't you update, the data which you've collected, which was the secondary data? Are you saying you didn't get data in here and you've not put it in your limitation of the study and you've not mentioned it? So those are some of the areas which we start talking about making sure that those aspects are quite important. Okay, I hope I've answered your questions. I've tried to do it in different ways.
Yes, you have, Prof, and thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We do have another question from Josephine, which says, what happens if there are no published works for literature review in my topic of study?
It's a problem. And it's also not a problem. Okay. Let me explain myself. It could be a problem, maybe it could be a new, it may not be a problem. Maybe it's a new area where scholars have not written about. So it could be something which maybe there could be a contribution, okay? But I'm still going to explain myself then. That's when we say, okay, it becomes a problem if you can't find articles. Also because remember, when you do research, you need to ground your study in literature. So the next part is, how are you going to ground your study in literature? You cannot have any completed dissertation without a chapter on literature review. So it becomes a problem. So what is ideal, which I normally recommend? Look for area of interest, which is novel, which is new, but where you can find literature to support what you're talking about. Because how did you come up with the topic when you've not engaged literature? So that's why I'm saying it is a problem. So in my conclusion, I'm going to say it is a problem, because how did you come up with your topic when you've not engaged literature? All right, I hope I've answered you. I've tried to help you to show where it's not really a problem, but you will see it is more of a problem because you've not engaged literature. So before you start, like I said, do preliminary literature, let your knowledge gap come from the literature. Like I said, you do 100 articles. So when you have 100 articles with what you are looking at, which is current, and then go to a section where you have avenue for future research, bring out your knowledge gap, and then come up with your topic. Okay. I hope I've answered you.
I also hope so. Okay. Before we move forward, I see that Cliff has unmuted themselves, so I'm suggesting that maybe they want to say something before we move on.
Yeah, thank you, Vinolia. Probably with your permission, if I can come in.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof Oni. I think you've done exceptionally well in trying to help our students. I just want to come in and just to add more on that aspect of where you don't find resources, especially referred articles. And I want to support the aspect that in every way possible, we need to find a solution. And of course, it's not a problem and I want to agree that it's a problem if you do not exhaust the resources that are available. And I want to cite two cases. The first case is my own master's study itself. When I did my master's study in public procurement and in supply chain management, indeed, it will be interesting to so many of you here that at that time, so many that were there, even some of the potential supervisors to say there was no research indeed in public supply chain management in the South African public sector context. And at that particular time, we had few articles that have been written in supply chain management. In the country, there were little or no research at all. That one I can tell you. In the public sector, given the fact that the supply chain policy had just been implemented in 2004. So how do you then be able to build a problem and have a scientific literature around to define that problem? So what I did at that particular time was to use different policies, use international practices to be able to bring different models that have been used in different countries and to be able to relate into the South African context. I think that's the first one. As I also had a student last year who was saying that I'm going to look at the research on the professionalization of supply chain in the public sector. There are few articles that have been written around that. Within the space of supply chain, why there's a lot that have been written on professionalization, but on professionalization in supply chain management, they are limited because we have many associations and a few countries have actually developed statutory status on professionalization in the country. And I said, yes, you find that articles around that you might not be able to get a lot, but there are so much that have been done in terms of professionalization out of the supply chain management space. And as I was saying that, I told the student that I know about 2 or 3 students at the moment that are working around that. So you could be able to blend what is currently there, the information, using also best practices from a generic and international context to be able to build your problem. I just wanted to add using that 2 examples. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Ambe.
Thank you so much, Prof. Without any waste of time, I can see that we only have comments in our chat box. So I'm just going to read the last comment, which says the important fact is from Abel. It says important fact there, Prof, on the response to the issue of the 5-year period concerning whether the research will be current when you finish. And as for Josephine, she says, well answered, and thank you for your input on that question that she asked earlier. I would like to thank you, Prof, for the opportunity to engage with us today. And I would like to ask if you have any recommendations or any comment before we close the session. You can just go through anything that you'd like to share with us before we continue.
Okay, what I've noticed generally with put it into context to try to connect it with, what the students can actually, see. And this is an aspect which we are trying to say we need to put into the research as academics. So I'm sure in future, if we can all, try to, embrace that, most of our masters and PhD students, will be able to deliver at the end of the day. So I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to, come and engage your students, and then looking forward to more engagements in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Before we close with the session, I would like to remind everyone that we do have social media platforms where you can follow us for recordings and for more information about the upcoming events. So you can just press the like button and follow us on all our social media platforms, which is Facebook, Twitter, and also we have a YouTube channel, and you can also follow us on LinkedIn for more information. We do have sessions like this more often. And the next session will be on the 10th of March. So you must just note that down. On the 10th of March, we'll be meeting again here. And one last thing is that, yes, thank you so much for the support. And let's show more support even on the coming events. And also don't forget that this is very educational when it comes to the master's and doctoral students. This is very informative, and the more you engage with us, the more information you get. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for availing yourself, and Prof Oni, we thank you so much for your time and the effort that you make for the presentation. Without any waste of time, I would say enjoy your evening further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Me too. Bye-bye.
Bye.